When a cleaner saved a millionaire's son, no doctor ever saw this coming. Watch now. The room was electric. A murmur rippled through the crowd like an ominous wave. People stood wide-eyed, breaths held, as the figures of wealth and power clashed with a world they barely understood. At the center of it all, a young boy lay twisted on the cold marble floor, his face paling against the elegance of the gala around him. No doctor had arrived yet, but a cleaner, of all people, was the only one to step forward. Maggie hesitated. She gripped her mop, the handle slick with sweat. Suddenly, the boy's eyes flickered open, staring at her. Was it panic? Was it fear? She could see that his chest was still, too still. Around them, muffled voices filled the air with chaos. Shouts of, "Someone call 911, were punctuated by the clinking of glasses, untouched by hungry hands. But Maggie's heart hammered furiously. She felt a sharp tug in her chest, a sensation like ice spreading through her veins. The desperation in the air was palpable, like a thick fog enveloping the room, and every second felt like an eternity. Then, a strange noise cut through the din, pulling everyone's attention like a string taut about to snap. A frantic gasp from the crowd. As Maggie knelt closer, she could swear she saw something strange shimmer just above the boy's mouth, an unnatural glow pulsating, like a heartbeat pushing through time and space. Was it light? Was it magic? Her mind raced, but there was no time to question. "Breathe!" she shouted, surprising everyone, including herself. It was a command, a plea. She had no medical training. What could she do? But desperation clawed at her, spurring her feet to action. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Maggie's hands trembled as she placed them on the boy's chest, feeling the rhythm of life struggling against the stillness. The crowd whispered behind her, some exchanged glances, eyes wide with uncertainty. "This isn't working." A voice shot out, tinged with ridicule. But in that moment, all doubts faded, and Maggie concentrated. She pressed down and up, a frantic prayer, a dance of hope against despair. The glow intensified, lighting up the boy's features like a beacon in the night. But what was it? Just as she felt the tension in the air begin to shift, a scream erupted. "No! No! This cannot be happening!" A wealthy woman, draped in diamonds, fell to the floor, her hands pressed to her heart. A sense of urgency pounded through Maggie's veins. Would her efforts even matter? But she couldn't stop. Something unstoppable had taken over. The visions swirling in her mind blurred together, a frantic race against an unknown, sinister clock ticking down the seconds. With one final, desperate push, she felt a warmth radiate from the boy, and for the briefest moment, everything went silent. The crowd held its breath, the world standing still, waiting for the outcome. Would he live? Or would this night echo with tragic loss? As the young boy's eyes fluttered, Maggie's mind spiraled. Had she done something miraculous? The truth was out there, but so was something darker. What had just transpired in that room, and what secrets lay behind the boy's smile? One question hung heavy in the air, lingering like the tension just before a storm: who was he really? The silence shattered like fragile glass as the boy gasped. His eyes sprang open wide, reflecting a confusion deeper than the ocean. As Maggie stared in disbelief, the glow that had danced above his lips flickered before vanishing. Hesitant cheers echoed quietly through the crowd, but a weight pressed down on her chest. This was far from over. "Are you okay?" Maggie whispered, unsure if he could even hear her. The boy blinked, and she could see the flash of recognition darting across his features. Was he really aware of where he was? Who he was. He flinched, struggling to sit up, and she thought she glimpsed something shift behind those innocent eyes, something that didn't belong in this world. Get away from him. A sharp voice cut through the swelling noise. A man in an expensive suit, face twisted in rage, surged forward. Don't you dare touch him. Maggie recoiled, instinctively pulling her hands back as if she'd been scalded. The man knelt beside the boy, turning him carefully onto his back. The light in the gala flickered ominously, shadows stretching eerie tendrils across the floor. Everyone watched with bated breath, a cocktail of fear and concern mixing in the air. Some whispered of paramedics, others muttered words of disdain for the woman who dared intervene. Stay back. The man barked, furiously patting the boy down as if checking for injuries. The crowd parted, but their eyes never left them. Doubt crossed their faces, mixed with panic. In the midst of all this, a sudden realization washed over Maggie. This boy wasn't merely some unknown child, he was the son of a powerful family, one whose connections rattled the very foundations of society. Had she saved him from something worse than death? The thought spiraled, the roots of suspicion gripping her heart as she looked around. What was this boy's secret? She had felt something in that moment, something strange and intoxicating that they couldn't see. But she could. It begged her to dig deeper, to pry into the unknown, to demand answers. What had been flickering through the air like a warning? Maggie? A friend nudged her side, eyes wide with disbelief. Did you really? But the question lingered in the air unasked. She locked eyes with the child again. The boy's gaze shifted, looking straight into her soul as if he held her fate in his tiny hands. Suddenly, his expression went from fear to something unreadable. A hint of a smile crept to his lips as if unleashing a secret, a thread of something powerful pulsating between them. All at once, a new tension thrummed in the room. The man beside him froze, his attention suddenly locked on Maggie. What did you do? He asked, voice low and gravelly. She could feel his fury washing over her like a tide, drowning all hope. In that moment, the lights flickered violently, plunging them into darkness for a fraction of a heartbeat before erupting back. Gasps echoed, but now the boy smiled knowingly. Was he in on something that nobody else could see? As clarity flooded back to her, Maggie felt sharp eyes on her. The crowd had shifted, their demeanor altered, fear morphed into accusation. What did she unknowingly unleash that night? The boy's eyes sparkled unnaturally as he breathed out, "It's not over yet." And in those words hung a silent threat, an unsolved mystery swirling in the air like smoke. Maggie's heart raced as she took a step back, recognizing the fragility of her own safety. Who was he really? What did he and the man want? The night had just begun unraveling, and the shadows were only starting to close in. Something was coming, and she felt it with every beat of her heart. The question drove hard: what happens next? Maggie's heart pounded in her chest as the intensity of the moment gripped her. The man in the suit moved closer, his eyes narrowed like daggers, and she could feel the weight of his suspicion wrapping around her like chains. What had she stumbled into? What dark web was woven into this boy's fate? "Step away," he said, voice dripping with authority. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." His gaze lingered on her, a warning that pulsed in the air, thickening around them like fog. Maggie's pulse quickened, the heat of the crowd intensifying with each second. They were thirsty for answers, but even more for blood. The boy's smile remained. Something in his eyes flickered, a spark that felt unsettling yet intriguing. Maggie couldn't shake the feeling that there was much more to him than met the eye. The shadows that crawled across the room seemed to bend toward him, as if drawn by a magnetic force. What is happening? She managed to stammer, struggling to keep her voice steady. "Come with me," the man commanded, ignoring her question entirely. He extended a hand toward the boy, yet the child did not move. The gleam of defiance shimmered in those youthful eyes, a silent challenge that echoed in the depths of Maggie's soul. There was power here, a kind of power she had never encountered before. The crowd shifted again, a wave of whispers replacing the earlier cheers. Some were frightened, some intrigued, but all were transfixed by the unfolding drama. Maggie could feel her friend's hand on her shoulder, grounding her amidst the chaos, but even that small comfort felt tenuous. Wasn't she meant to be the savior here? I wanted to help, she breathed, unable to look away from the boy. You did. His voice chimed like a distant bell, mischievous and knowing. But I think you're in over your head. A sharp intake of breath rippled through the crowd, and Maggie felt her stomach plummet. Was he teasing her? Or was there an underlying truth in those words? Before she could process it, the man lunged forward, desperation fueling his movements like a predator advancing on its prey. Let us go. He gripped the boy's arm, and for a fleeting moment, Maggie saw something shift in the atmosphere, a crackle of energy that sent shivers down her spine. The boy closed his eyes tight, and the lights flickered once more, oscillating between shadows and light. Stop! Maggie shouted, the word echoing with conviction. The entire room stilled, the air crackling with tension. The boy turned back to her, a flicker of something vast and ungraspable in his gaze. It was as if he were pleading for her to understand something monumental that lurked just beneath the surface of reality. What could he possibly need from her? Before she registered what was happening, the atmosphere shifted like thunder rolling through the sky. The shadows gathered, swirling and darkening, as if taking on a life of their own. The crowd gasped collectively, fear rising like a storm tide, drenching the gala in an aura of dread. What did you do? The man whispered, horror flickering across his face. The boy opened his mouth, but no words came out, only a pulse of light that illuminated his face. That very moment, something deep within Maggie sparked to life. She understood in her bones that she was right where she needed to be, caught between the boy and the man, in a world where nothing was as it seemed, and then chaos erupted. A piercing scream cut through the heavy air, and Maggie's breath caught in her throat. She spun around, barely processing the frantic movement of the crowd, as they surged back, a wall of fear crashing against her. She turned back just in time to see the boy's lips curl into a knowing smile, sending a shiver down her spine. Oh no, something wicked this way comes. What new horrors awaited them? What had been unleashed? The answers hung precariously on the edge, just out of reach. The lights flickered again, their pulse erratic. Shadows danced on the walls, stretching like fingers reaching for flesh. Screams erupted from the audience, desperation clawing at their throats. Maggie felt her heart race. She was drowning in chaos, yet all she could focus on was that boy, standing firm amidst the tempest. What are you doing? The man shouted, panic tightening his tone. The boy's laugh rang out, a sound so innocent yet layered with something darker. The vibrancy of his voice cut through the sheer terror. Do you really think you can take me away? The man hesitated, his grip faltering as the crowd swirled into a frenzy. Maggie pushed through the sea of panicked bodies, drawn to the energy that seemed to hum like a living thing between them. What's happening to him? She called out, feeling the tension like a thick blanket smothering her. He's not yours to save. The man barked back, venom lacing his words. You don't know what you're messing with. Yet Maggie could see it, a shimmering barrier surrounding the boy, almost like an ethereal shield. It pulsed with his essence, its glow illuminating the darkness. She paused, her breath hitching. For a moment, she was mesmerized, caught between the allure of its power and the dread that tangled in her gut. The boy smiled wider, teeth flashing like pearls. Maybe I don't, but you can't take me back. That resolve fueled something deep within Maggie. Clenching her fists, she stepped closer, determination flooding her veins. You don't have to go with him, she urged, heart racing like a drum. We can figure this out together. The boy met her gaze, and the world around them fell away. The storm roared in the background, yet in that moment, there was a strange calmness. Their connection felt electric, pulling her in, making her feel alive and purpose-driven. But around them, the world seemed to crack, as if the reality was stretching and contorting in response to their parallel desires. The man gritted his teeth and lunged forward. Enough of this. But Maggie was ready. She stepped between them instinctively, instincts honed sharp by desperation. Don't. The air shimmered again, and within a heartbeat, the boy's aura pulsed stronger, illuminating her path with flecks of light. The sudden brightness knocked the man back, and for a heartbeat, the crowd was silent. They looked on in awe, the tension hanging thick enough to slice through. Then, as if on cue, the boy whispered, "Show them." Maggie felt the energy shift as the boy raised his hands, palms open to the heavens. Whatever truth had been waiting inside him began to spill out. Visions, whispers, flickers of forgotten memories and lost hopes danced like fireflies in the air, leaving trails of smoky light that gathered around Maggie, binding her to his will. Gasps filled the hall again, reverberating off the marbled walls. The boy looked directly at her, his eyes a mix of fear and hope, a plea to join him in whatever was about to unfold. "Trust me," he said softly but firmly. Her heart drummed hard in her chest. Could she risk it? Could she trust this unknown child, this unseen force swirling in the storm? For now, the weight of the world flipped, the room wrapped around them in their surreal shared moment, but as the last spark of light began to fade, darkness rushed in once more, hungry and relentless. The man glared, determination etched deep in his face, the hunter ready to pounce. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed, shattering their connection. Glass shattered underfoot. Screams torn from lips echoed in sheer terror. Something vile was tumbling into their world. "Maggie! Run!" shouted someone from the back, a panicked voice piercing through the veil of chaos. What had they unleashed? What horror now threatened to consume them all? The tension unfurled, thick and suffocating. She had to decide. To run or to stand her ground. But to what end? One moment hung in the balance, teetering between light and dark. As the shadows crept closer, Maggie felt the energy of the boy urging her forward. She saw her path threading ahead, a choice between light and darkness, fear and courage. Then something shifted behind her, a movement that would change everything. Which road would she take? What lay just beyond the edge of the unknown? Maggie felt a chill sweep down her spine. The sound of glass crunching underfoot seemed to amplify the chaos around her. All at once, fear clawed its way into her throat, breathing life into her instincts. She turned, eyes wide, searching for the source of the danger that had invaded their bubble of tension and wonder. From behind a heavy curtain, a dark figure stepped forth, towering and monstrous, its form shifting, etheric tendrils curling like smoke around it. The figure drew closer, and Maggie's heart raced with both dread and instinctive determination. The boy backed away, his aura flickering like a candle in the wind, threatening to snuff out entirely. "Maggie, we need to go," the boy urged, his innocent bravado replaced by urgency. She glanced at the man, still gripping tightly onto what remained of his composure. His eyes were wild, searching for a way out. Maggie felt the pulse of the crowd, an angry wave ready to crash, but she couldn't abandon the boy. Not now. With a swift motion, she grabbed his hand, their connection sparking like a live wire. "You're not alone. We can protect each other," she promised, her voice rising above the pandemonium. As she spoke, the figure lunged forward, its dark essence spilling like ink across the floor, trailing tendrils that snaked toward the audience. Gasps filled the air, and people stumbled back, desperate to escape the chaos. Screams drowned in the enveloping shadows as they gripped each other's arms, fear transforming into frantic paranoia. "Maggie!" the man shouted, rage warping his features. "You don't understand what you're dealing with. He's a distraction, a tool." But she wouldn't allow his words to sink in. Maggie squeezed the boy's hand tighter, their hearts racing as they both felt the energy converging, a pulsing hope against the encroaching darkness. "Show them," she pleaded to the boy, matching his wide, terrified eyes with fierce determination. There was a flicker of understanding there, and in an instant, the shimmering barrier pulsed again, brighter this time, defying the encroaching shadows. Glimmers escaped it, swirling in the air like metallic butterflies thrown into the tempest. The darkness hesitated, its movements faltering. The crowd caught their breath just long enough to realize the boy was more than mere distraction. He was a beacon, a shield against the consuming despair. With renewed courage, the boy raised his arms again, his face set in fierce concentration. "We need to unite," he called, his voice rising against the growing tide. But then the man made his move, charging forward with a wild intent that matched the sinister figure creeping in the shadows. "You think you can save him?" he roared. "You put us all at risk." Fear gripped Maggie. Could she really protect this child, this force that was pulling her ever closer to an abyss? The truth hung heavy in the air. They were outnumbered, outmatched by whatever horror was lurking. Suddenly, the darkness lunged, tendrils reaching out, grasping for the boy. A flicker of light erupted between him and the entity, a clash of forces so powerful it felt explosive. The ground shook beneath their feet, the walls of reality trembling as energy crackled like thunder. "Hold on!" Maggie shouted, not knowing to whom she was directing her plea. She felt her own pulse align with the boy's energy, a mingling of life and death, hope and despair, but the moment shattered again as the man fell back, scrambling for redemption. "You have to trust me," he bellowed, his fury unraveling into something else entirely. He lunged towards them one more time, and in that moment, Maggie realized her choice was narrowing down. Would she let this chaos unfold, or would she forge a path through the darkness surrounding the boy? The moment hung in the air, taut like a drawn bowstring, as both dread and possibility twisted around her heart. And in that split second, she understood there was no turning back. Would she become the light that saved him, or would the shadows claim them both? The ground rumbled again beneath them, the chaos swirling up like a storm ready to unleash its wrath. What lay ahead would change everything for all of them. The darkness lunged again, but Maggie was ready this time. She planted her feet, gripping the boy's hand fiercely. "You have to focus," she yelled, her voice cutting through the chaos. The boy nodded, his terrified gaze stealing as he summoned the light from deep within. "Together," he shouted, and as their energies fused, a warm glow erupted around them. The aura encased them like a shield, illuminating the panic around them, casting sharp shadows that danced menacingly against the walls. Maggie's heart thundered in her chest as she felt the overwhelming force of their combined power. It rippled through the air, a wave that seemed to push back against the encroaching shadow. The crowd behind them flinched, their expressions mixed with awe and fear. But the dark figure wasn't deterred. It boiled with rage, tendrils coiling and launching toward them. Each one moved like a serpent, quick and malicious. Maggie didn't let go. She felt an adrenaline-fueled desperation surge through her veins, compelling her to stand tall. "Keep going," she urged the boy. "You can do this." He gritted his teeth, pouring every ounce of energy into the barrier. The glow brightened, the colors shifting, swirling into a dazzling spectrum that pushed against the darkness with fierce determination. It felt like they were the eye of a storm, a pulse of life amidst chaos. Then came a crack, a splitting sound that shook the very air around them as one of the tendrils pierced through, breaking the boy's concentration. The light flickered, momentarily dimming. Her heart sank like a stone. "No. Stay with me." "Maggie," he stammered, his flicker of resolve wavering. She could see the toll the confrontation was taking on him, the fear collecting at the corners of his eyes. "Maggie!" The man shouted again, his voice strained. "You don't know what's really at stake." But Maggie's focus remained on the boy, her heart blazing with determination. "You're stronger than you think," she reassured him, her own breath catching with the desperation that fueled them both. An eerie silence followed, and in that moment of waiting, doubt crept in. Would the strength of her belief be enough? Would they really stand against this insatiable darkness looming before them? Then, as if answering her silent query, the boy took a deep breath, his expression morphing from fear to fierce conviction. "I won't let it take us," he murmured, pushing himself forward, hands raised high as radiant light broke from him in blinding arcs. The darkness recoiled. The very air hummed with the vibrations of a battle unfurling. In a flash, the man lunged again, desperation twisting his movements like a tainted marionette. "You don't understand, I'm trying to save you all," he cried out, his voice demonically entangled with righteous fury. "Maggie." In the chaos, she caught a glimpse of him, a madness transforming his features into a mask of obsession. It was surreal. She was terrified but also fascinated, caught between the boy's certainty and this man's rampage. "Get back!" she shouted, pushing the boy behind her protectively. The man surged toward them, dark intent in his eyes. "You have no idea what you're playing with," the boy gasped, shaking his head. "No. We need to join together." He stepped out from behind Maggie, his bravery shining brightly, but despair clawed at Maggie's chest. If the man was right, if the boy truly was the source of the danger, could their light really save them? Or would it consume them all? "Trust him," the boy called, the aura pulsing dangerously as shadows pressurized around them, clutching greedily at his light. She hesitated, the weight of the decision crashing within her. The fight between darkness and light intensified, each second stretching to a near eternity. And then, in the midst of their battle, the air split with a deafening sound, a scream that shattered the silence entirely. The crowd turned toward the source, and the chaos morphed into a frenzied wave of terror. What now? Maggie thought, dread causing her breath to hitch as the darkness responded to the sound, writhing and twisting with renewed force. The encroaching shadows churned with rage as if they had found a new target, a new horror, and Maggie knew the moment had come for truth or devastation. Would they save everyone or become the very thing they feared? The next beat was coming, and it could change everything again. The scream echoed through the air like a death knell. It sent shockwaves through the crowd, changing the chaos into sheer panic. Eyes widened in horror as one by one, they turned away from the spectacle of light and darkness, abandoning hope for self-preservation. "It's coming for us," someone cried out, and a wave of bodies surged toward the exits, leaving Maggie and the boy standing at the center of the storm. "Don't let them distract you," Maggie shouted, struggling to be heard above the rising cacophony. "Focus on the light." But her words felt like pebbles tossed into an ocean of dread. The darkness before them roiled, eager to consume the fleeing crowd. With each desperate heartbeat, tendrils of shadow reached outward, lashing at those who stumbled, trying to claw their way to safety. Maggie's pulse quickened, a gathering storm of fear and urgency. "We have to stop this." The boy, straining against the oppressive force, nodded resolutely. "We have to draw it back." His voice trembled but burned with determination. He took a step forward, the radiance emanating from him casting a soft glow that flickered like candlelight in a storm. Together. But Maggie could feel the boy's strength waning. His energy was being siphoned away, trails of light dimming around them, like stars flickering in a midnight sky. She gripped his hand tighter, willing her strength into him, transferring her courage like a lifeline. "Remember why we're fighting," she urged, recalling the faces in the crowd, families, friends, ordinary people caught in their extraordinary moment. Suddenly, the man lunged again, eyes ablaze with a manic fervor. "You're playing with fire. This isn't just about you." His voice tore through the air like a knife. "You think that light will save you? It's a beacon for what lurks in the shadows." Terror gripped Maggie as the man's words struck deep. If what he said was true, if the boy's light was a siren call to something darker, what would it unleash? She glanced around and saw it, fear turning to frenzy. Shadows basked hungrily, growing larger, more feral as panic spread. "Please!" she shouted back at the man, her voice laced with desperation. "Tell us how to stop it. Help us." But his madness only grew. "You think saving just yourself matters in this world? You need to embrace the darkness to understand the light." "Embrace?" she murmured, fear knitting her brow. If that was their only way out, she could not let it happen. The boy squeezed her hand, his gaze fierce yet soft. "Maggie, we can't give in. We can't." The glow around him pulsed in time with his heartbeat, trying to push back against the looming shadows. Maggie felt the weight of a choice pressing down on her. The essence of the moment became a knife blade, and she could almost hear it whispering a call to give in, to surrender to the void. Would joining that darkness make them stronger? Or consume them entirely? "Fight!" she urged, raising her voice above the growl of darkness. "Fight with everything we have." The boy nodded, taking a deep breath, gathering what was left of his dwindling strength. Just as he began to channel the light again, a roar of thunder echoed, a manifestation of pure wrath. The darkness writhed and screamed, a tumultuous wind howled amid the chaos. Maggie stumbled as a massive shadow surged forth, dwarfing them both. It lunged, tendrils snapping like whips. "Hold on tight!" she screamed, thrusting out her free hand, bracing against the oncoming wave, ready to face the monstrous tide. But in that moment, everything fell silent. The screams faded, the light flickered, and darkness shaded over them, thick and heavy. And then crack! A blinding flash illuminated the edges of the abyss before them. What had they awakened? What did we do? Maggie's heart raced as she braced for the unknown. Was their battle against darkness the true fight, or had they just unleashed something far worse? The answer loomed in eternity, pulsing with suspense, waiting to unveil its horrors. The silence pressed in, thick as a fog, wrapping around Maggie and the boy like a suffocating blanket. She could hardly breathe, her heart racing, each beat echoing in her ears as fear coiled tighter in her chest. Then, just as abruptly as it had vanished, the chaos returned. The ground shook with a tremor that seemed to reverberate from the very depths of the darkness itself. Shadows twisted and writhed, pulsating in a grotesque dance. Dim figures emerged from the void, their faces obscured, barely human, and yet undeniably hungry. Maggie stared into the blending of what felt like a nightmare taking shape before her eyes. "What are they?" she breathed, voice trembling with both fear and awe. "They're drawn to the light," the boy responded, panting as if the weight of the darkness was pressing down on him. He fought against the invisible grip, his resolve faltering. "But we can't let them take it." In the distance, the crowd was a frenzied sea of terror. Faces contorted in panic, begging for salvation. The boy's light flickered brighter but dimmed just as quickly, a flame on a windy night. Suddenly, one shadow lunged forward, a clawed hand stretching out toward them. Maggie instinctively pulled the boy closer, shielding him. But the shadow stopped short, recoiling as if it had struck an invisible barrier. The air crackled with energy. "Don't lose focus," she shouted, the words tumbling out, desperate. She instinctively remembered the warmth of her mother's embrace back home, the feeling of safety it brought. "Remember what we fight for." The boy nodded through gritted teeth, eyes widening with determination. "If we bind the light, it'll push them back." But how? Maggie's mind raced. There was so little time. She closed her eyes, feeling the startled whispers of those around her, the soft roar of chaos. Then an image bloomed in her mind, a spiral of light, intertwining with the shadows, creating a barrier. It could work. They just needed to harness their energy together. "On 3. She called, turning to the boy, the urgency grappling with her resolve. 1, 2, 3. Hand in hand, they pressed out their light, an avalanche of hope crashing into the darkness. Sparks ignited, filling the air with a radiant shimmer. Tendrils of shadow recoiled, hissing, losing their form against the blaze of light. "Keep going," Maggie urged, pushing more energy through their connection. A feeling surged within her chest. She felt the weight of the world press against her, but she refused to give in. For a fleeting moment, they stood there, two figures caught between worlds, one of light, the other of shadow. And in that moment, Maggie felt a flicker of something greater than herself, like a chorus of souls joining in harmony. But just as hope bloomed within her, the boy's light faltered again. "Maggie, I can't hold on." "No." She gasped, the thought of losing him sending icy fingers of dread down her spine. You have to fight. We can't let it win. As darkness surged closer, encircling around them, it whispered secrets, echoing doubts. What you fight for may be nothing but a lie, it taunted, its voice a chilling breeze against her ear. With every ounce of strength left, Maggie forced out a scream, no. We refuse to believe that. The boy's glow flickered one last time, then expanded violently, casting a blinding light outward. But just when it seemed they might prevail, darkness snarled, coiling, crashing against their barrier like a tempest that in an instant, shadows shattered, revealing a hollow space within a monstrous, twisted being, its eyes dark voids that threatened to swallow them whole. Maggie's breath hitched. What is that? She stammered, fear thick in her throat. Before she could process the dread of what lay ahead, it lunged at them with impossible speed. Together. The boy cried, pulling her closer. And as the light flared, the darkness roared. The two forces clashed, a final confrontation, reverberating through the air, leaving only one question: would they emerge as victors or victims of the shadows? The collision sent shockwaves through Maggie, rattling her bones as the monstrous being exploded into a swirling mass of shadow and malice. The air felt electric, each heartbeat echoed the urgent fear clawing at her chest. She gripped the boy's hand tighter, feeling the tremor in his fingers as he fought the suffocating grip of darkness. Stay with me, she shouted, brow furrowing, desperation spilling from her voice. She could feel their connection wavering, flickering in and out like a dying ember. They couldn't break apart now, not when the shadows hungered, circling them like vultures. With a guttural roar, the creature lunged forward, a nebulous mass flickering in and out of sight, jaws gaping wide to reveal rows of glistening teeth. The shadows surged toward them, a flood of despair and rage, each inch further fueling Maggie's resolve. We need to make the light stronger. She yelled, her voice barely audible over the piercing shrieks surrounding them. The boy nodded, sweat streaming down his face, determination etched into every muscle. We have to focus on our reason. The ones we love. He panted, images flashed through Maggie's mind, her mother's laugh, her best friend's smile, her father's protective embrace. She closed her eyes for a breath, letting the warmth of those memories ignite the flicker of hope within her. In that moment, she realized they weren't just standing to save themselves, they fought for everyone still trapped in this nightmare. Think of them. Maggie urged, pouring every shred of strength into the connection, their hands entwined like lifelines. Push back against the dark. With a surge of energy emanating from their joined hands, light exploded outward, illuminating their surroundings. The shadows retreated, shrieking in fury, but the creature howled, undeterred, its massive form twisting into a deeper abyss. Don't stop. Maggie cried out, feeling the power shift like a tide inside her. They were gaining ground, but the creature thrived in the chaotic energy around them. The light pulsed, creating strands that wrapped around it like ropes made of sunlight. The boy gasped. It's weakening, but we need more. Focus. We have to channel everything. Maggie shouted back, gritting her teeth. A surge of warmth from her heart seemed to flow through the air like a visible river of gold. She felt every heartbeat, echoed by the thrumming light they unleashed. Together. They shouted in unison, pushing forth their energy like a growling tempest, each pulse of light robust and radiant. Tendrils of shadow squirmed, screeching, as they were pulled back into the void, but then, the darkness retaliated with an avalanche of power, crashing against their light, the very fabric of reality vibrating beneath the onslaught. Needles of fear pricked at Maggie's mind, doubts festered like poison. What if they failed? What if this was the end? Maggie. The boy's voice broke through, raw desperation cutting through the noise. We can't give up. Think about everyone we're fighting for. As images of her friends and family swarmed her mind, a raw clarity rose. She remembered how they all believed in her, the strength their love provided. They would face the shadows together, she wouldn't let them down, anticipating the creature's next move, she took a step forward, pulling the boy along. "Run!" she shouted, no longer wavering. "Run into the light." They bolted toward the flickering support of their combined strength, surging forward to meet the oncoming tide of darkness head-on. Maggie's heart thumped in synchrony with the pulsing light, a furious beacon battling the creeping shadows. Would their willpower rise to meet the darkness, or would they be swallowed whole, as they collided with the beast in one final tidal wave of energy? Every harsh whisper and swirling doubt echoed in their minds. But amidst it all, a new glimmer unexpected and remarkable caught her eye. What lay beyond the chaos? They hit the darkness with everything they had, but would it be enough to break the hold of the void? Would they find the truth waiting for them on the other side, or would they be consumed in the depths of despair? The clash of light and shadow was deafening. Tension electrified the air as Maggie and the boy broke through the wall of darkness with a force that sent shockwaves resonating through the room. It was a moment of truth, raw and unyielding, as they fought to harness their energies into one shimmering wave of hope. "Keep going!" Maggie cried, her breath ragged from the effort. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown to their freedom, their determination igniting the thickening darkness. The boy's eyes were fierce, reflecting the radiant glow that enveloped them both. Shadows writhed, recoiling from the brilliant light that pulsed around him. "We have to hold it here," he shouted, voice tinged with desperation. They needed to stabilize the connection, they needed to bind the darkness. With every ounce of will, Maggie focused her thoughts on the faces of her loved ones. Each memory was a flash of warmth that coursed through her veins, a battlefield armament against despair. "Think of everyone," she urged. "We're doing this for all of them." Images of laughter, love, and support flooded her mind, her mother's warm embrace, her father's laughter, her friend's encouragement. Each moment crystallized, strengthening her resolve and fueling an unwavering fire inside her. She felt the boy's spirit soar alongside hers, their energy entwined, two threads woven into one brilliant tapestry. The shadows shrieked and twisted, desperate to maintain their hold, but the pulsing light surged forward, breaking through sluggish darkness. The creature roared, its form buckling against the sheer force of their united strength. In one final effort, Maggie locked her eyes onto the boy, amplifying the connection. "Together!" they shouted, the words laced with steel determination. With a blinding flash, their combined energy erupted like a supernova, splintering the dark tendrils into wisps of despair, swirling like embers caught in the wind. The monstrous figure faltered, its hollowed eyes seething with malice. But now, Maggie and the boy were formidable, standing resolute against the tide. "This is our moment," she yelled, summoning every bit of willpower within them. Shadows lashed out, but they were losing form, the light revealing what lay behind the mask of fear, a darkness that was scared, vulnerable. Suddenly, with a deafening crack, the creature dissipated into a cloud of shadows, imploding into nothingness. Each escaping wisp felt like whispers of lost souls finding peace for the first time in eons. Silence fell over the room. The crowd, caught in the aftermath, looked on in awe. What had just transpired? Fragments of shadow lingered, but they were weak, yearning. The atmosphere shifted, heavy with both relief and disbelief. They had emerged. Maggie turned to the boy, heart thrumming with adrenaline and victory. She was trembling, exhilarated and exhausted. "Did we do it?" He smiled, a flicker of hope unfolding like a flower blooming after rain. "We did," he replied, his voice steady, like a chord strumming the heartstrings of everyone around them. Suddenly, the crowd surrounded them. Faces of disbelief softened into expressions of gratitude. The wealthy were no longer detached from the miracle they had just witnessed. They were all in this together, united by the specter of fear they had just overcome. "She saved him," someone yelled, pointing at Maggie with a mix of admiration and surprise. The murmurs rippled forth, evolving into applause that enveloped her like a warm blanket. Yet, the boy's gaze shimmered with something deeper, something unspoken. "It's not just over yet," he whispered, casting a glance toward the remnants of shadows still lingering in the corners. Maggie's heart clenched. "What do you mean?" There are still others like me caught between light and dark, he replied, the weight of understanding flooding his words. Our fight continues. Maggie took a deep breath, the words sinking in through a tangle of emotions: fear, hope, determination. She nodded, suddenly resolute. Then we'll fight together. As they stood side by side, the moment felt monumental, like two stars forming a constellation brighter than any that had ever existed. The crowd faded into a backdrop, but the boy remained her focus. Let us find them, he spoke, a flicker of mischief dancing in his eyes. It's time to light the way. Maggie smiled, recognizing the challenge ahead. Together they would face whatever lay in the unknown. As they took the first steps into this new journey, a soft glow accompanied them, one that felt unshakable. One that felt like hope. The applause faded into whispers as the evening wore on, but every spectator knew they had witnessed something incredible that night. A cleaner had saved a millionaire's son, and in that extraordinary moment, they had not just overcome darkness, they had forged a light that would remain long after the shadows were gone. Now, the time had come to transform fear into strength, to seek those who needed saving. They were ready, the journey had shaped them. The battle had revealed them. And together, they would illuminate the path ahead. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share.